Hello, welcome to my channel. Today I am going to do the meditation. I'm going to do it rather quickly because it's Sunday. We have some things we have to do today, and so I need to get this done and uploaded. So I beg your forgiveness for not being as long-winded as usual. Hi. Okay, today is day 18. It's February 16th, 2025, and here we go. I said, I'm so glad I grew up during the time that I did. Looking back on shows that were created in the 80s is fun. Metatron says, you were destined to do that, to grow up during a time when the futuristic innovations were few and far between. I said, I heard once that innovations of the 90s, the birth of the internet, were inspired by alien beings. Is it possible that this is true? Metatron says it's more than possible, it is probable. I said, I've always believed that there were aliens out there, not the scary sort, but rather those who wish to help us, to teach us. I always thought that if we were not so primitive, that we would have been contacted before now. And Metatron says, who's to say you weren't? I said, do you mean alien life has contacted us before? That people like Chris Bledsoe really had supernatural experiences? Metatron says, it may surprise you, but you have had supernatural experiences. You had Nigel with you during that asthma attack. You have experienced things mostly through your dreams, but they are born somewhere. The wisdom that you have does not come from just you. It comes from, dare I say, a supernatural place. I said, will there ever be a World Contact Day? Metatron says, yes, if you get your shit together. I said, okay, now I really am dreaming. Did you just say shit? Metatron says, it's just another word, Yvette. It should not surprise you. How would you call getting yourself prepared for something that could happen? Do you remember the aliens you dreamt about when you were younger? I said, yes, it was such a magical dream, but I was told that it was not real. And Metatron says, by whom? Another person? I said, yes, but it was a person who told me the journal I kept was not spiritual, but rather fantasy, fictional. And Metatron says, so you stopped. This is the third time you've tried something like awakened meditation. Both times you stopped when someone else told you that your efforts were invalid. Do you honestly believe that what you experienced in that dream during your telepathic communications with the one you called Father were invalid because you were told that they were? How very sad is that? And I said, I didn't know what to think of this. This is why I thought Nigel was fantasy figure. How could he have been real when everything else I had been told was considered fantasy? This is why I asked how one can differentiate the things that really happened from mind games. Nigel said, it was not fantasy, love. You were not fantasizing. You were getting messages. These messages were not always cut and dried. They were snippets of universal truth put together in a way that would be accessible to you. The dream about Father and his family that you had were messages put together for you from other outer worldly source. Further was as real as Metatron, Sunshine, or me. He has waited a long time to contact you, and when you were 20 years old, that opportunity opened itself to you. It grew. It gave you an opportunity through your dream to touch you. Why else do you still remember it? Your dreams are often predictors of the future, and sometimes they are windows of the past. Sometimes you must look back in order to move ahead. I said, what about that dream I had prior to my father's illness? Was that a prediction? Metatron says that it was. You had that dream about your father's transition several months before he had taken ill. When you had that dream, it enabled you to make certain that you reconciled with him before he got sick. You knew internally that it was important for you to make this reconnection before he got sick, so that there would be no reason to feel guilt. I said, yes, but if that was the case, What about the elephant in the room? My mother. I haven't spoken to her since I had to go through cancer. There is a part of me that questions it, but there's probably that ego in me that says, why should I? Bigger still is the notion that I am doing better psychologically without that particular energy in my life. It's not making excuses, but I have found that whenever I do something, there is that negativity that I cannot get away from. Metatron says, you have experienced a good deal of it. I cannot tell you how to contend with it, with that relationship. But what I can tell you is that releasing people does not mean that you are allowing them to influence the way you view yourself. The reality is, if she was just another person, someone you chose in your life, you would have released them a long time ago. People come into your life and go out of your life. That is the way of things. If you are contending with hurt and sorrow because of actions of others, then you are exercising wisdom to letting go. It does not matter if the person is your mother, father, sister, or brother. If their energy is not compatible to yours, you have the right to release them. I will never tell you because someone is your earthly family that you have to maintain contact with them. You found healing when you reconciled with your father. Would you find that sense of healing reconciling with your mother? I said, I don't think so. I think it would be a toxic conversation. Like when I told my friends on social media about the cancer and how they told me what I should do or how I should handle it. Nigel says, you resented that, did you not? I said, yes, I did. I was the one dealing with the diagnosis. I was the one who had the operation and went through the chemotherapy, not them. I discovered that it was very easy for people to talk about how they would cope with it when they had never experienced it themselves. That old Indian saying about criticizing another until you have walked a mile in their moccasins springs to mind. Nigel says, yes, there is a vast difference between empathy or understanding and the notion of being a smart aleck. You seek the empathy and compassion of others during those dark moments and not the critiques. I said, yes, this is cancer treatments, not a fantasy story. When I spoke of what was going on, people were supportive, at least for the most part. But all I seemed to get was an earful of, you should do this and not that. Metatron says the real lesson in all of this is how to lend an empathetic ear without comment. When someone you care about is going through a difficult challenge, it is imperative to voice understanding without condescension. It will not always be needed to speak, but to listen. 9 times out of 10, when a person vents their feelings or frustrations, it is necessary to merely listen. If you feel the words failing you, then say as much. The words fail me. That offers more comfort because it is meant to say, I care and I'm listening to you. Nigel says that brand of care is something that those people lacked. They thought they were offering you wisdom, but instead they were reacting in fear. And I said, I see. And Nigel says, yes, you do. You know that many people learn of their morality when a family member has a diagnosis. Their thoughts could be screaming, oh crap, it could happen to me. I could get sick as well. They use the attacks against you because they are scared. Little do they realize that their words could leave deep scars on the person who is battling an illness. The ironic thing about all of this is that when they inevitably face an illness, you will not be there to help them through. They have ultimately lost access to your wisdom and insight. Metatron says, yes, that is true, Yvette. You went through this alone, and because of their actions, they will go through it as well. It is not meant to make you feel guilt. It is not the intentions of the universe, that is merely the way the universe works. I said I wouldn't wish this on anyone, but I do see how it works. Perhaps there is a reason for all of this. And Sunshine comes in and says, yes, there is. You went through so much with this, but you came through it. I said, will they if it happens to them? They may, said Sunshine, but it is not for you to worry about. People burn bridges every day. It does not mean that you should supply the wood for them to be rebuilt. It may be what is expected, but it should not be forced. If it is, then you are lending aid where you do more harm to yourself than to them. It is in essence their lesson to learn and not yours. I said, then as Willy Wonka said, they will be more the wiser. Metatron says, yes, they will. But consider this. They have their guides and angels as well. They only need to heed their guidance when they do, they can face all of the things that come to them, just as you face your errors and mistakes. The true measure of a person is to recognize that no one is perfect, that errors will be made, that is how people learn and grow. And I said, I will remember. Thank you so much for being here. I love you all. And they all three say, we love you too. So that is today's meditation. Looking back on the experience I had when I had cancer was a very eye-opening thing. And it reminded me that sometimes when the rubber meets the road, I guess, that people have to say, okay, I'm going to release this, I'm going to let it go, and I'm going to move on. What's hard is that we've been programmed for much of our life that blood is thicker than water. But when that blood becomes so thick that you feel like you're suffocating in it, then maybe it's time to cut the ties and let it go. It is hard when it comes to family because we've always been told as children that we have to respect our elders and we have to respect our parents and do what our parents tell us. But the reality is the parents aren't always going to be there. And people have to come to a point where they say, I may respect my parent, but I don't agree with them. And that's where it becomes very, very difficult. And sometimes it becomes necessary to distance oneself from the toxicity that can arise in family communications. This is what happened with me, and it probably has happened to a lot of people. In other words, celebrating Mother's Day every year may not necessarily be easy for some people. Some people may have a very difficult time doing that. And so what one must do is basically acknowledge the feminine energy that's within them and embrace that as opposed to this physicality or this physical mother figure. So that is what I've learned through all of this. But having this discussion with my angels and with Nigel and Sunshine and Metatron has helped me to realize that not everything is as cut and dried as it may seem. Sometimes we have to do what is best for us and do what is best for our own spiritual growth as opposed to trying to hold on to old lessons or old issues that we no longer have any service of. So that is the message for today, I suppose. Sometimes letting go is the hardest thing to do, but sometimes it's the most necessary thing to do in order to continue to grow. So with that said, I wish you a wonderful day. I hope that you have a great start to this new week. And as always, namaste.